Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. And what we're going to do today is that we're right in the midst of the campaign, folks. And so it's what we're going to do. We're going to I'm going to give you a little entree in terms of what we plan to do. And we've got a guest here with us today. His name is Fred Stewart. And Fred's been around. He's very familiar with the city and all the city matters, for that matter. And that's a very important piece. So what we're going to do is that at the beginning of the show, we're going to interview me. He's going to interview me. Naturally, I'm running for mayor, and Fred will be interviewing me. And we'll take about 20 minutes or so, about 20 minutes in that particular aspect of it. And then we'll take a short break. And then when we come back, then we'll probably talk about city politics. We'll talk about the city race and things of that nature. And I think that will just probably keep up all the time. But again, the tools you want to have in your hand right off the bat is the voters pamphlet. Here's a copy of the voters pamphlet right here that I have in my hand. We all have one. You've got your ballots, by the way. Many of you haven't voted yet, that type of deal. And we've done some things already from the standpoint we've identified all of the candidates that are running for the city council and the mayor's race. And we did that a couple of shows before. You can check on the some of the historical data on the Oregon Voters Digest, and you can look at that too if you want to. But we mentioned everyone that was running in this particular campaign. Okay, all right. And then since then, by the way, I've gotten all the way you get equal time on this show is that, and we're reaching out. I've been reaching out for the last 3 or 4 months, for that matter, and inviting folks to come over. Only several people that responded. People that responded, in all due respect, I've given them the time and the opportunity. I've interviewed them, so to speak, in my own way, if you will. And right up front with you, I told them up front, I'm checking most of it. I'm checking the voters pamphlet aspect of it. And the rest of it is just persons. And then naturally, I've got a couple of people here that have, but anyway, I've been getting flyers of all over the place. And I guess all of you are getting flyers. Here are all the flyers right here. That's a very expensive deal. But I really think that you should reference the voters pamphlet. The voters pamphlet is probably about the most facts you can get. Some of the people that I've done real quick, like with a guy by the name of Cameron Whitney. Remember him?
Yeah.
I got a little deal. That's Cameron Whitney that I did. He came over and chatted with me.
Bruce.
And,
Bruce.
What's up? Real quick.
Let's talk about them. They don't talk about you, Bruce. So let's talk about them. You.
I hear you. Anyway, I just want to make sure.
Don't talk about you, Bruce. Talk about them.
As you can see, Fred's going to interview me. I'm going to get some tough questions. I know that right off the bat. Anyway,
let's hurry up and jump into you.
Okay, guy. Okay, let's get right down.
All right, now it's time for you to be quiet.
Okay, here's my view.
Bruce, they can see the background.
You see the background?
Bruce, they can see the background. Now,
okay,
all right. Interviewing you.
I'm giving it to Fred now. He's hosting the show.
All right.
Okay, talk to me.
I'll start calling you my Superfly candidate.
Okay.
Jesus. Bruce.
Yes.
The first question. Why are you running for mayor?
I'm running for mayor because I find that the issues that I feel that they're really not discussing all of the issues. I'm looking at some of the people that are running in most cases, and I'm looking at their resumes. I'm very familiar with the area, and I'm looking for the discussions. And at the last minute, in all due respect, I looked at that list, and I said, well, I think I will run for mayor to make sure we get some of the more serious issues on the table. That's really where I'm at.
What is the most serious issue you think facing Portland right now?
Other
than the virus.
Right now, it's the homeless issue aspect. The homeless issue that hit us, but then we've got the coronavirus situation. That's all part of it. But again, that can be all part and parcel of that situation. That's another issue, but it is an issue. But the fact of it is, the most serious one is our city. As you know, this is the living room of the state of Oregon, and I'm thinking in terms of the downtown area aspect of it. I'm thinking about the housing aspect of it along that particular line. And as you know, when I got in, that was another reason why I got in. I recently ran for Multnomah County Commissioner District Number 2, and the former jail realistically, but a facility was called Wapato. Wapato has been around and nobody has dealt with it. In fact, even a person who happens to be sitting in the mirror seat at this point in time, at one point in time, he was chairman of Multnomah County, and they still hadn't dealt with the whole issue of Wapato. And I got in and that sort of stored it up and made sure that we do something with it. It's the building is worth
Well,
about
that's good. So if you became mayor, what would you do with Wapato?
Well, in all due respect, especially now with the what I would do, I would have housed the homeless in that facility, and more specifically, I would have gone downtown and I would have focused from that particular area and bring those individuals over to Wapato and vet those individuals and find out who they are and whatever. And that would be the first thing that I would do. But the other side of the coin with Wapato is that, if you look at the books, and I tried to look at the books, as you know, the sheriff is the person that's pretty well incarcerate. That's where we basically house anyone that's picked up by Portland police. And I found that at times they need beds. And guess what? If they don't have any bed, they got to go out and rent them. That's very expensive. It's very spendy. And I still felt that the county should not have sold Wapato. They should have kept Wapato. You got me? So one of the things
by selling it, they're now collecting property taxes.
well, let's say yes and no. Right now, if a person picked it up for $5 million and it's worth $70 million, we're not collecting anything.
Are they paying taxes on $70 million?
Well, in all respect, I don't know. And I'll be right up front with you. I don't know specifically how much they're paying at this point in time. But
they're probably paying property taxes on at least $20 million. I suspect.
Let's say, okay. Well, I don't know. And a lot of times, it's hard to get access to information, even though there's an auditor working there at the county. That was quite a race. Well, got me.
Well, what's the next thing you would work on?
Well, the other thing I would work on, like I said, is that I was not really a strong proponent for basically housing the homeless in downtown Portland. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I think we need to do something far different than the approach that we're taking. We're taking. In fact, we recently went through the process with the county. They bought another building for about another $4 or $5 million in downtown Portland, and some say it's for housing homeless. Some say housing mental illness, mental health, and whatever. But the question that I have, said in all due respect, I ask myself the question: okay, you find housing downtown Portland for the homeless. What can they purchase? How can they survive? They can't afford the rent down there. In all due respect, and plus the fact there's a lot of folks on the street. I mean, we are a tourist town aspect of it. And we were immaculate back in those days. I mean, you feel familiar with it. It was the city of roses. It really was. And you just can't get a city of roses when you got people that are ill on the street. It just didn't make any sense.
Well, Bruce, where would you put them?
Well, in all due respect, the first thing when I say put them, we went through this whole housing construction era, if we will, and we handed out all sorts of permits. And I would have thought they would have given it some thoughts, some major thoughts about before they started handing out these permits. I would go to the Housing Authority of Portland and said, okay, fine, we do have a housing authority of Portland, if you will, basically for the low income and this, that, and the other. I would have considered right up front is basically build another structure, because we've got a waiting line sitting over there, and I think we should have gone that particular route first, okay? And then mental illness, they're still on the street. I would take those out. Again, that's where Wapato could have played a major role along that particular line. And then a lot of other folks, like I said, I ran for county and I walked those streets. A lot of these folks would just basically say, look, I'm having some tough time with my rent, I can't make my payments or this, that, and the other. I'm unemployed, whatever. Well, we have services for those kinds of situations. And I don't think we've been spending enough time making sure that we do the right thing. I used to work at United Way. And basically my job was raising funds. But the other thing, we had another arm at the organization where basically they would identify what the issues are. We'd raise the money, and then they basically create the service to respond to the deal. And no one has brought up the whole idea of United Way. It's a large organization. It's always been here, and it did a heck of a job. I mean, so in most cases, a lot of the folks who are kind of like sitting in the leadership, I mean, whether they're just too busy or whatever, but they just don't have the background. And so consequently, if they don't have the background and if they don't have the access, guess what? It's just sit there and they're constantly asking the taxpayers, we need more money for the homeless. And people are still questioning, where is the money? And what have you done? In fact, we got 2 bond measures up there right now where the city and the county both are talking about homelessness. I mean, what is the definition of homeless? We're right back where we started from. Anyway, that's what kind of like where I'm at. Okay.
Okay, now the other concern a lot of people have, that's the responsibility of the mayor, is public safety. What are your thoughts on public safety?
Well, first off,
Fire and the police.
yeah. Well, first off, I'll just break. We're short of manpower, Fred. You know what that's all about. Before you go into battle, you got to be well equipped. We're short of manpower, and and then there's this. Well, again, here we go again. We don't have the mayor doesn't have the background in terms of what is police, and in most cases, the chief that he normally identifies with, normally they sort of bring in a new face. But in most cases, they don't have the background aspect of it. And then in terms of numbers and recruitment and whatever, no one's there to recruit. I came to this town as a Marine recruiter right from Vietnam. I was very successful as a recruiter. One, because I had background and I knew how to communicate. And when you look at any kind of a police department, it's a paramilitary kind of a concept, if you will. And no, if I'm there, I'll be the recruiter. I would be the recruiter. I'll identify a couple of people on the force and train them as to what they need to do to recruit. But I'll be the recruiter, and I will definitely be the commission. I'll find someone that will basically be an assistant along that line. But I'll be the police commissioner and basically take the lead on that deal to solve that problem. They got a union situation over there at the Portland Police Department. I've met with Daryl on many cases. I've talked to a number of the policemen aspect of it. All due respect, this union thing, this divide routine, the police department is not the mayor of Portland. The mayor of Portland is mayor. I mean, let's get.
Well, a lot of people would like to see a more diverse police department. Bottom line, they want to see more Black people on it.
Well, look,
what do you do to get more Black people on the Portland Police?
Well, like I said, I was a recruiter. I mean, it's fine. You got to find a person has to meet the criteria for police work. You got to define that first, right? Now, naturally, if you can get folks of color, that's great. And as far as I'm concerned, you've got a number of Blacks on Portland Police right now, but are they doing what we're expecting them to do, if you will? And I think not. I mean, the president of the union, are basically the leading force of the police department, is a gentleman by the name of Daryl Turner. I mean, he's Black. And you would think that, if anybody, and he was recruited, he came here, so to speak. And
he's
so,
from New Jersey.
Yeah, but my point is that this is Portland, Oregon. Yeah. I mean, we picked up Harry Jackson, remember? Harry and
Harry's from Oregon.
Yeah,
Daryl is from New Jersey.
But my point is that we've got folks here that are able and capable of basically being recruited for the Portland Police Department. When that person goes out and starts looking, they have to have the background and have had spent time in that community to know where to go. I have been in that community. As a recruiter, I recruited that entire city. I recruited outside of that city. So the bottom line is that I know the people. And in fact, remember Bernard Plummer? Bernard Plummer was very much involved when it was putting together, and we basically went to the department and got Harry and a number of the folks to get them focused, the police department to focus on local folks. And at the end of the day, I mean, Harry was probably one of the top cops that they've had in a long time. He was the only guy.
He was better than Moose. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was the only guy that could ride it in his car by himself, and he never had to shoot anybody because he knew everybody. And that's true community policing.
I feel sorry for the family in Northeast Portland that would have heard Harry.
You what now?
I feel sorry for him.
For who?
I said I would have felt sorry for the family that had Harry. Their parents would have paid.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah,
That family would have paid a dear price.
oh yeah, very, very much so. And
Yeah,
like I
we
said,
would have left the babies on.
that's
But the
right.
pets,
No,
the
that's right. See,
goldfish, the grandma, they would have all had to pay something.
oh yes, oh yes. Well, see, the other thing too, I
The
would say, Fred,
auntie, yeah,
you know, another little piece, you got to bring Pal back, Police Athletic League. That was a good PR piece, reaching out to kids and playing basketball, you know, that kind of a deal. Just getting them involved. When all of a sudden it's gone, you know what I mean? And it's just sitting there, and a lot of folks are getting shot. And I'll be right up front with you. I asked myself the question. I asked myself the question. They're supposed to be. Let's put it this way. They're supposed to be the image, if you will, should be reflected from an enforcement standpoint. When you see a Portland policeman in uniform, I'll be right up front with them unless they can handle it. Harry was the only one that could deal with that piece. But the fact that the person looked physical. You got me? I mean, and then we went through the whole
mm-hmm.
minority and women thing and this, that, and the other. But the fact of it is, it's a deterrent. It's a deterrent. And I'm just saying you got to make sure you got the right people on the street. Got me? And you know, we had Don Dupay. Remember Don? You know, we talked about this when we used to.
Yeah.
When we were talking about what is a policeman, and Don went right down the line.
Yeah.
The number of people that need to ride in cars and the kind of folks that they were, you know, and all this. They tried all kinds of things like, well, they need to live in Portland. I would think that would be an area that I would focus a bit in. I mean, that is community policing, and I would basically say, okay, fine, divide the city in a quadrant or whatever is necessary, and make sure that there's a police person in each one of those areas. You got me? And let them drive their cars home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's again a part of community policing. When they get in the car to know the neighbors, that kind of a deal. Because you heard it, Don Dupay, when he was a cop, you know, he knew the people that was in his area, right? He picked them up and took them home. It was not an issue, right?
Yeah, but times are different. A cop could live in the city easier. You
What
know,
was that?
I don't know. It's
But anyway,
to live in the city limits these days.
well, my point is that I can handle the job. That's my point. I feel very strong about that. I mean, you got to show that in fact you can handle the job, because you got troops to handle, and the troops have to respect you, and they need to understand what that's all about. And I think that's a problem. I mean, right now the present mayor, you know, with really, he just doesn't have that background. He's not former military.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether or not the guy even was in the scouts. But the fact of the matter is, you got to have that background. You can't just basically delegate someone outside of that office, and recruiting someone from outside of. They've got the OJT themselves, on the job training. You know, we just lost a team. You know, right? You're right. You got me. Went to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And all due respect, she was just OJTing, but really didn't any work. We actually had two chiefs. We had her and Daryl Turner, and Daryl was doing all the talking. He was just there, Bishop.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know the game. Okay. Now we got, in all due respect, now we got another lady, and I'll be right up front with you. The other thing, you know, I'm running for office. We got, you got people that are already in leadership. I've called the mayor on a number of occasions. You know what I mean? To just sit down and chat with him. I would have basically shared with him why I'm running for office. And in fact, I'll help you out. No problem. You got me? And even the same thing with the new police chief that's there. That's right now. The new police chief should be contacting
but you see,
everyone that's running for mayor.
You're not a token black person. They're only going to talk to the token one.
That's right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Well, that's why I'm running, Fred.
I mean, they've got their Negroes. They literally talk like this. Can I share Negro? Do you have a Negro? Because I don't want to talk to Bruce. And they share Negroes. Yeah. And if they don't want to work with a Negro, then they'll go and import a Negro from like Chicago or something else.
Yep, I agree. Well, and you know this.
That's why I appreciate you keep running and keep putting the issues out there, Bruce.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, in all due respect, people say, well, what kind of a style are you going to be, Bruce, and whatever. Look, I'm going to be running when I hit the ground once elected. I'm going to be like Bud Clark. Bud's been around for a long time. He knew the community. He knew the people, you know, and that kind of a deal. So it was a piece of cake. He just walked in, fill in the slots. You know, I remember when he made that statement with when and one police chief, I guess it was, and made the statement at the bar and said, "Well, look at this is the way it's going to run." He said, "No, read my lips. You're fired." And my point is that
Yeah.
he was a
A
police.
lot of respect for Bud Clark, you know.
Oh yeah. And by the way, he was a jarhead. You know that. He's a former Marine, and he's still
Yeah.
around. So basically, I'm kind of like saying some of the words. That's basically what my platform will be. I'll just be Bruce Broussard. I've got background. I've got exposure. I know the community. I've had a number of jobs to really understand what's going on. You know, I understand the business community. I understand the economics about the fact, you know, everybody's got to be paying rent, and somebody got to be providing jobs. And I used to provide jobs. I understand what that's all about. And I'm not going to be a negative person to businesses. No, businesses, they got to be almost at the top rung. It's just that you got to know what their bottom line is, and they're not ripping you off the city for that. They got to pay their fair rent. Okay, and then there has to be respect. Point blank, there has to be respect. And then our senior citizens, I mean our family. I mean we're all here together. But the fact, man, is we're in lacking of leadership right now. There's a fear right now of people trying to figure out what. I look at the list. Some folks were telling me, Bruce, I'm looking at the list and I'm saying, gee whiz, I'm saying, Bruce, you're the only one. And that bothers me. You know, I don't like to be in that kind of a position. As far as I'm concerned, if a person filed for office, they should be qualified. They're qualified. If they're qualified to run for office, fine. If they're not, and we're having a problem with that, then look at the application process. Let's do something different. Maybe we want to just get out of the deal and take the monies out of it, and let's run the election ourselves. That could be done. You know, you can interview folks in all kinds of ways. Okay, and you can get the material out. Anyway, that's one reason why we got
Now,
the.
Bruce,
Okay.
another big issue that we've got out there is housing. The city council over the last 3 years has pretty much put a halt to the development of single-family housing in Portland. There's a few projects going on, but pretty much they're only catering to mostly government development, multifamily housing mostly. What would you do to increase housing in this market?
Well, first off, I don't have 100% background in housing per se. It almost takes somebody like you. In fact, in all due respect, you'd be the kind of a person that I'd bring on staff right off the bat, because you know I made an attempt on my own because I was in the housing business to a certain degree, but I was basically in the acquisition and providing housing and picking up the paper and doing a lease option purchase to get the person in the housing project. Then I tried to get into multi-housing when I built a senior citizen project, a 38 in Northeast Portland. But guess what? And they fought me for days just on that. That might have been my first run. But the idea is that there was no quote, Bruce, come to the table. What else do you need? Let's keep that enthusiasm going. What's your next project? I was going to build the whole block right over there by Fred Meyer's. And in fact, I was going to basically build it on the Fred Meyer property. It was a beautiful piece of property. But you know the game. You were there during that particular time. I mean, I fought for days, and I still have the video of that opening and whatever. And folks who were fighting me about the property, all of a sudden, once the property was built, they wanted to come in. They wanted to rent the property. You got me? Or they were complaining.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You've been there. You know what I'm saying? You got me? So
Yeah.
so the answer to your question is that, in all due respect, you know what I'm gonna be doing. You know I'm going to pull you in. I got to pull a person like you in, you know, to deal with the whole issue of the Housing Authority of Portland. They've got just a lay person sitting up in that deal, and you think about it, they don't have the background. When you sit, they got planners.
Anything I could to help you. There's other good people there too, Bruce.
Yes, they got other good people. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But you got planners, you know what I mean? And you look at these planners, they just got out of school. They don't know what the community is all about. You got me? So I'm just saying, I'm not knocking them. I mean, I understand, but you got to have someone that's able to communicate with them and share them with the basic directions, and then be able to read it once they comes back to the table. I will be involved.
Well, Bruce, this has been a great interview. I really appreciate your insight, and I'm going to vote for you, and I endorse you, and I really pray that this time the people of Portland make a right choice.
Well, I'm not going anywhere, Fred. You know that. I mean, You know, and I'll say,
I know you're not.
I'm not going anywhere. Every time I've run for office, I tried to make it a point that I was a mayor when I signed that piece of paper. Welcome back, folks. I guess you got the feeling. I mean, I've given you the sampling of what kind of an interview I'm sort of expecting from the other candidates. I've done mine, and this is not sort of like looking at just for myself aspect of it. I just have the capacity to do this, and I want to give, because I've been there before. I've run for office on several occasions, for that matter, and there's certain things you need to know and be aware of. And so I want to give you more than 1 minute or 2 minutes. I want to give you some time to reflect on why you're running for mayor and give you enough time to share it. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. So you at minimum, you need at least a 30-minute piece, so to speak, or 25 up in that area. And so, so my point is, I'm reaching out to you again. If you're interested in being, if you got the equipment, if you will, for Zoom, then because I'm doing it at my home studio. So my phone number is 503-701-0457. And 503-701-0457. Give me a call. And like I said, we'll go from there. And by the way, we may have the opportunity, even though we're new, that we can maybe talk to you over the phone. So if you don't have the Zoom equipment aspect of it, then give us a call and we'll set it up in a phone deal. Then maybe you can drop me off some materials, like if you, maybe something like a lawn sign or a flyer or something like that, and I'll be more than glad to share that on, you know, from my spot to the viewing audience. You know what I mean? Because people like to know, well, you know, where can you get a flyer? They don't have one because it's very expensive running a race. Not an easy task aspect of it. And all due respect, please don't go out and try to refinance your house. I know some folks who have done that before, and they're still paying. You know what I mean? So no, you don't want to do that kind of a deal. You want to do it the right way. And so there are vehicles here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Just went through this whole issue about campaign finance reform, and we put that piece together. And so now we're getting into it, and they're going to. I think it'll be a little bit more fairer because the maximum that a person can get from an individual is $500. Right now, there's some issues that we're still dealing with, but it's going to come to that deal. The county's already on board, and now we're going to try to get the city on board. So look like we got Fred is back. Fred Stewart is back. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just kind of get in with Fred and ask Fred a few questions.
All right.
Fred, are you there yet? Are you here now?
I'm here.
Okay, here's Fred. Fred, how you doing today, buddy? Doing okay?
How you doing, Bruce?
Oh, just fantastic, fantastic. Well, look, what I'd like to do is just spend a little time with you from the standpoint. I mean, you got the material, and I'm sure you got your voters pamphlet. I'm sure you got the voters pamphlet, the voters pamphlet, the ballot. You got the ballot. Well,
I got the ballot. I got the pad.
And you're getting all kinds of flyers like this. I know you're getting those. I mean,
I'm getting all kinds of flyers, emails, phone calls, Facebook.
I blasted you on my show, on one of the shows, and showed signs in your yard. See, so I saw that one, and I thought it was kind of interesting. You know, you had one individual that was there. You had.
Well, I told you you could put one up, Bruce. I'd love to have one of your signs in my yard. Just drop it on by. You know where I live.
In fact, I put a sign in your yard just this past show that you and I did when you interviewed me. I mean, that was quite a promo that you did.
Well, you should put a sign in my yard. A lot of people walk by my house.
Well, I know that. You know, I know where it is. Well, I tell you what, I will get one over to you. You had Sam Adams on there. I thought that was interesting. Start off with that because, you know, Sam has he's had quite a background, you know, having worked for Vera as long as he did. If anybody knows the city, he knows. And yes, he went through. He was mayor at one point in time, and then he left, but he came home. And you know, hey, just the mere fact that he thought, well, I'll come back. How many people have you seen that's willing to come back during that particular time? I don't know of too many.
No, I always knew Sam was going to come back. Sam's a Portland guy. He's an Oregon guy.
Yeah.
His family's in Oregon.
Yeah.
You know, Sam just had to get away for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm excited that Sam Adams is running again and may end up being, you know, on city council again. I would love to see two mayors because I think Ted's going to win. I'm going to vote for you, but you know, I just think the majority of Portland isn't smart enough to vote for you.
Oh, the money too. The money too. I mean, I don't know if you.
There's that too, but what I'm getting to is Sam Adams, of all the people running for city council, him and Carmen Rubio are the two people I'm most excited about. I think Carmen's has been training to be a city commissioner as long as I've known about her. And you know, the only thing I'm not happy about is wherever Carmen goes, so does Tom Potter. And I don't want Tom Potter back in City Hall for any reason.
Well, you know, Tom is just taking it easy. You know, he's identified as the community policing czar, so to speak.
Oh,
we're
not going to talk about him that much. I shouldn't have brought his name up. But I'm excited about Carmen.
Okay.
I'm excited about Sam Adams.
Okay.
Running. I'm excited that Cameron Winton is running.
Yep.
I mean, he's grown up a lot over the last 10 years. And I love the support base that he's been able to develop. I mean, he is, you know, he's much more usual for Portland than a lot of token Negroes here in Portland would allow a guy like him to think.
Yep.
And I'm really excited about what he could do. Now, you know, only time will tell whether or not he'll follow through. But I think this is a great opportunity for him, a great opportunity for the market.
Well, you know, the other thing too that's kind of interesting about this guy, he's really been involved. You know, that downtown exercise he did on the whole issue of homelessness and whatever.
Oh yeah.
Out and he had his hands in a number of so-called, I call basically boot camp kind of issues where he basically tested the water, and I thought that was good. Then he went to school.
He's a great relationship builder.
Yeah,
he went to school. Like I told some other people, you know, Cameron is real young still.
Yep.
He reminds me a little bit of Eric Stinn when Eric ran for city council. If people forget, I think Eric Stinn was 26 or 28 when he decided to run for city council back in 1996 or 1995, I should say. When he made the decision, hey, I'm going to run for city council, he was not even close to 30 yet. I mean, he was closer to 30 than, you know, than he is today.
Gretchen had a lot to do with that too.
He wasn't that close to 30. He was still in his 20s. He was about the same age of Cameron. Matter of fact, Cameron may be a couple years older.
Yeah.
You know.
And he had some support. You know, Gretchen really helped him out quite a bit on that.
Well, yeah, and Cameron's got some good people like that. I bet if Gretchen was alive today, she'd be excited about Cameron too.
Yes.
I mean, Deborah Kafur would know better than I would, but I bet if Gretchen was alive today, she'd be excited about Cameron.
Well, do me a favor. Share a little bit about Ted here. Let's talk a little bit more about Ted. Now, that's a tough job. Don't get me wrong. That is a tough job. He has had some experience, but, you know, naturally with the county and then with the Treasury Department, and then he comes home. He had some experience, but, you know, still, this is not a piece of cake, even though he was born and raised here. You know, he wasn't born and raised in the issue. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Bruce, the first time I met Ted, it was when he was running for county executive. I was so impressed with Ted that day, and this is going back a long time. This is like, God, I don't know, somewhere in the
I interviewed the guy. Well, what impressed you?
What I'm getting to is, I was so impressed with him that I donated to his campaign. I gave him $250 that day because I was so impressed with him, and I wanted him on county commission.
No, he went for the chair position. He didn't go for just the county commissioner. He went for the chair position. And man, you just don't jump in a chair position like that.
Oh yeah, you do. We've had a lot of people. We've had a lot of good people. I mean, go right to chair. I mean, gee whiz, Gladys McCoy. I mean, Mr. Pettygrove. I mean, there's a lot of people. No, I mean, you do have to have a little bit more confidence, and you have to be much more knowledgeable and better leadership skills to be a chairman. But I had every confidence that Ted could do the job, and he did. He did a very good job as county commissioner. I mean, as a county chair, and he did a great job as treasurer. He's run into a lot more complicated things being mayor. Being mayor of Portland, there have been 3 former mayors of Portland that have all said the hardest political job in the country, in the state, is mayor. And one of them said so from a vantage point as being also governor at one time, and that's Neil Goldschmidt. Neil Goldschmidt once said that being mayor of Portland was twice as hard as being governor of the state of Oregon. He also said that being a city commissioner is harder, but being mayor is even harder than just being a city commissioner, even though their positions are pretty much equal under our charter. So no, being mayor, it's a very, very tough job. I think you and Sarah and Ted are the only people I've seen that have decided to run for mayor who've expressed any inclination that they understand how, 1, tough the job is. I mean, everybody knows how important it is, but 2, the complexities of the job. So I told people, you know, either you, Sarah, or Ted are probably about the only people to understand. Everybody else, I think they're still too stuck in the glamour aspect. It's very glamorous being a city commissioner. It's very glamorous being mayor. But as you know, most of the job has nothing to do with glamour whatsoever.
Well, that's right. I agree. That's why I think that. Well, what do you think about having a runoff? I think it would be good. I think it would be good to have a
runoff. I would love to see a runoff between any of you three. Any of you three would be great for Portland. Great for Portland.
I wouldn't mind taking the interviewing process.
Yeah, no, Bruce. I mean, Bruce, I'm not joking. I think you would be a great mayor. I think you'd be better than a lot of people give you credit for, mostly because the racist white people that run our media will never give you a fair shake. Thank God, 2 of the more important ones are sick right now with cancer. Let's hope the Lord blesses the city of Portland here. And I mean, I'm really hoping. I mean, they don't need to be around anymore. They've done their damage. Time to go. They won't retire. Let the Lord do it. But you know, they won't give you a shot, and they're not really being fair to Sarah either. But hey, you know, that's how they are. That's how they are from their religion. That's how they are from their position of whatever they've fought for to get. They're never going to change. They're going to die with it. So you know, we have to do what we can with social media and be honest and frank in our discussions and the information that we share. Yeah. That's the best we can do. Yeah. But I think, Bruce, you would be a great mayor of Portland.
Well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And you know, and like I said, I give it a good 4 years. Like I said, I feel my style would be somewhat similar to Bud Clark. You know, I mean, Bud was kind of like saying he knew the community. I mean, he was a small.
Yeah, Bud's my favorite mayor.
He was a really straight up kind of a guy. And you know, I'm not trying to, as one would say, start. There's enough on the table for me to do and get done during that 4-year tenure. Trust me. Yeah. And at the same time,
Bud was a great mayor, and I'm glad that you brought him up because you're about like him. I mean, I think he would you would attract a lot of people to come to work for the city like he did. You know, if you look at our best mayors, Bruce, in our history of Portland, and we've had about 8 really solid mayors. I'm not going to mention them all, but Vera, Bud, Neil Goldschmidt, especially Neil Goldschmidt, Terry Shrunk.
Yeah,
just those 4. What was great about them is the people that they attracted and were able to recruit to work around them. Right. And a lot of people don't think about that when they're choosing any candidate, especially an executive candidate.
Right.
You know, like a mayor or a city council. Right. You know, you don't think who would work with this person.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That's and that's one of the great things. You've got a great foundation of people that you've developed relationships with over the years. You know, just like the other people that I've mentioned, just like Ted has. Ted's got a decent amount. but he doesn't have an amount at the level yet of let's say Vera Katz or Bud Clark. You know, those guys brought in legends. Same thing with
big time.
Neil Goldschmidt. You're talking about mayors that brought in legends to work for little old Portland, and that's why we've got this city.
Right, that's right.
I'm hoping if Ted wins, that he's able to, bring in some better people. Well, I mean, not get rid of everybody he's got now, but there's a few more pieces he needs to bring in.
When you make that point about legends and whatever, I noticed that the police department basically endorsed got into the race of the DA. See that?
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because they've been staying out of races. The other thing they didn't do, and then Daryl is what about Loretta? I'm thinking about some of the people that were running for office, and they were running for office, and they were the only person that they got involved with was the DA's office. Why do you think that was so?
Well, that's Daryl. Daryl's not from here, and Daryl's got a board. He's got a support, but
Right.
Because of his weakness, he always approaches politics as an outsider because Daryl looks at himself as an outsider. I mean, Daryl's only there because a few white people feel that he should be there. You know what I mean? He's not there because there's a community support or community groundswell. There's 4 or 5 white cops, probably from Oregon, who feel that, hey, we need a Negro in front, and you'd be a good one. Because when we accidentally shoot a black person, we want that black face standing there in front of everybody. You know what I mean? Now, a guy from Oregon, a black guy from Oregon would never do what Daryl does. And they would never approach politics like Daryl does. You know what I mean? But Daryl's only going to be there another year or so, probably a little bit less than a year. So don't worry about Daryl. Daryl's going to go away, probably move to Arizona or Vegas if they'll allow him.
He's going to Vegas.
He's not here much longer.
He's
going to be dealing with Daryl Turner very much longer. Daryl's almost out of here.
Yeah, that was an interesting piece. And
let's hope that the union head for the police department came from at least the Northwest. I don't care if they're black or white. They're white. They better have black friends and be able to that black family.
very, Well, now, another thing, the issue that's on the table right now, and I thought it was not a good move for Ted, and I think he needs to really think about this. And that's the whole idea of campaign capping, capping the campaign at $500. That's still in the discussion. You know what I mean? When 87% of the people voted for the thing, I don't know. Any thoughts about that? Why do you think that?
Like I told you, Bruce, we've got, like every state, we've got the wealthy elite that doesn't want that. Because you got to remember, if that becomes something embedded in our politics, it's going to be easier for people to run for things like Congress and Senate. And they don't want that. They don't want that. They don't want the city of Portland or Multnomah County setting a precedent from this. We do need this greatly because we do need more people running for office.
Yeah.
Best way to learn how to be a leader in your community as far as an elect leader is to run for office. It's the ultimate interview.
Yep.
The ultimate educator. And we need more people doing it, not less. We need more people spin up.
What about the media?
And taking that challenge to offer their leadership to their community. Because one of the reasons why things suck so much right now is the amount of people who actually run. And then how, I mean, once you get into a position here, unless you really do something stupid, like piss off one of these racist white journalists out here, or get caught cheating on your wife with an underage or something, you're pretty much a shoe-in. I mean, most of our state reps ran unopposed. I mean, and in Portland, the Republicans didn't even throw out somebody.
I saw that.
You know what I mean? But the Democrats, most of their state reps ran unopposed. So there's not even a discussion with the Democrats.
They don't mean anything.
You know what their discussion is? Is the editor of the Oregonian going to like me or like me enough to endorse me? I mean, you would. If you went to the college days of one of the editors of the Oregonian, you would think they were more skinheadish than you would think today. Why does anybody care what an editor of the Oregonian thinks about a candidate?
Well, in all due respect, I agree with you. In all due respect, they don't have the background. I mean, I've been just like you.
I know their background. They got a background. I'm telling you.
I've met
There's not
many
one editor of the Oregonian I would
Yeah.
want to meet my mother. There's not one. And there's two of them. If they did meet him, I'd get angry. There might be some problems. There might be some problems. Yeah, I wouldn't want them to meet my mother. If they gave me $10 million to meet my mother, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want them to meet my mother.
Wow.
I say,
Wow.
no, there's got to be an easier way to make $10 million.
Wow. But
Yeah.
by the way, the
And then
media.
these guys go out and endorse candidates that my
Yeah.
friends and family, consider.
Oh yeah.
Tell you.
Oh wow.
It's pathetic.
Well, that's another issue, by the way. Then, as far as I'm concerned, I will address that issue. I hate to put it this way, but I'm gonna be straight up. I'll probably be kind of like my press interviews would be somewhat similar to Trump. I'd call one every day if I have to.
No, you'd be better. You're a better human being than Trump.
But
I'm not putting Trump down, saying
No,
that. I never met the man. But,
Nothing.
I don't think Trump is as bad as people think he is. But
No, he's not.
what
No,
we need
I'm
to
saying.
is
That's what I'm saying.
we need more people like you. And there's a lot of people out there like you, Bruce. Community people
Yeah.
who got a lot of community connections.
Yeah.
When you think about talking about issues, you're not thinking about somebody who doesn't live here or trying to impress some college professor that has never been to Oregon, and you're not trying to get into national press, or you're not even thinking about putting on airs. We need more people like you running. And I tell people in 2024, I hope things change. I hope more people run. I hope more people spout. And I hope all of us stop leaning on these damn editors at these damn papers. I mean, gee whiz, that alcoholics, people addicted to God knows everything. And just because they're journalists, some journalists that endorse our candidates, we wouldn't want them to marry anybody in our family. And if they did, we'd want them to divorce them.
I tell you what, buddy.
What we need is more people running like you, Bruce, and thank God you are.
Well, you stick right in there because I'm looking for you for 2024, by the way. 2004.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if I'm ever going to run again. I may want to do other things that's going to help my community. We'll see, Bruce.
But I know your commitment to community. I know
There's people around my city, the city I grew up in, the city I love, that feel comfortable being the way they are.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. There may be some other things I may end up doing.
Okay. Well, hey, buddy, I really appreciate you came on. And what we're going to do is that I'm going to contact these folks that I've just reached out for, and we're going to interview these folks. Hopefully some of these days you might be doing it on your own, and in some cases, the two of you and I will just wrap up stuff or something like
Well,
that.
Bruce,
Keep it going.
keep running your race. Don't waste your time exposing other people. Expose yourself, Bruce. Okay? And then after the election, we'll go out and meet with all these other people. And I guarantee you, between now and 2024, we'll do things to make it easier for candidates to get known, and people, the average citizen in Portland, to learn who's running and what their background is.
Great.
But right now, Bruce, you keep going out there and talking about the issues like you're doing, like Wapato and the other issues.
Right.
Important, the veterans issue.
Right.
Keep being the voice like you've always been.
All that is about it. Hey, buddy.
All right.
We're gonna
Say
go
hi, and keep listening to Norma. Say hi to Norma.
I always do that. And Steve now, see, he done jumped on board.
Yeah.
I didn't
Can't forget Norma, because we all know who the boss is.
Yeah, very much so. Like I said, I got a Steve now. I won't give them that. Give him your last name. His last name. Really good job there, see. But anyway, look, thanks very much for the interview, buddy. Thanks for being a part of the show, and hope to see you next time around. Okay? Take care.
You take it easy, Bruce.
Right,
Be
sounds
safe.
good.
Thank you for doing it.
Okay, thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Folks, make sure that when you get that ballot, just don't throw it in the trash. Look at it, get your voters pamphlet, and do vote this time around.
So I'm sending out my ballot tomorrow. My ballot's going out tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good.
All right?
Okay, take care, folks. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.